Probably you would have heard about LCA of a product or a process. Now I'll take you to the different context, that is the regional environment. How do you do the LCA assessment, which helps in the regional planning, okay? How LCA helps in designing climate resilient city. Then I will show you the Bangalore environment conditions. Then I will talk about sustainability as I have understood. Then finally I will conclude my talk with some of the studies or what is our contribution to the society, how my science has contributed to the benefit of society. And that's the book which recently we published on the value of the ecosystem services. Now you all know the LCA, okay? It has got the framework includes goal and scope, then inventory analysis, impact assessment, and then interpretation. That's the general thing. We will identify and quantify the natural resource usage and release to the environment across all stages of life cycle. This is true even for a product. The assessment of the potential environmental impact of these material uses and releases. We will quantify, as Madhuri was talking about, carbon equivalent in the cotton manufacturing, the textile. Then identification opportunity to reduce the environmental burden and achieve system-wide improvement. So when you quantify that, you will come to know what are the gaps in the system so that you can intervene and improve that. In theory, the boundaries start from the earth as a source and return to the earth as a sink. Okay? So now you all use the term cradle to grave, cradle to gate, all those things. So now what are the opportunities of doing LCA? One is you can compare. Comparative assertion is required to undergo the peer review in a competitive environment. You can develop the baseline of environmental and human health consequences associated with the given product, process, or activity. And most of the LCA studies have stopped at carbon, the footprint. Should go one step beyond the health aspect. Okay. So then you can identify the opportunities for system improvement, the policy development, then provide the basis for designating sustainable city status, like the work I have done. Then promote sustainable development through the mitigation of climate change. Then LCA is a holistic environmental assessment tool for sustainability assessment and strategy development. And more importantly, it converts the science into the policy making through the insights. Okay. So now we all know the sustainability, sustainable future. As long as you ensure the clean air, water, and environment to your grandchildren, I would say you have followed the sustainable path. Okay. That is where the responsible decision making is required. Now let's look at the changes in climate. Is the climate is changing? If you look at the data, it shows that there is an increase in temperature. That means there is a change in climate. Consequence of changes in climate is you will have erratic rainfall, high intensity rainfall, like that. Okay? And more importantly, disasters will increase. As you see, the last 2 decades, the number of disaster events have gone up. And also the sea level is increasing from 49 to 56 centimeter. So then coastal cities or coastal towns are vulnerable. Now it also hurts your food. See, if you look at the coral, with the 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in temperature, you will lose 70%. And with another 0.5 degrees, 99% corals you will lose. Then if you look at the species, 6 insects will lose, 8 plants, and 4 vertebrates. When I talk about insects, I am not talking about mosquito or anything. I am talking about pollinators. Endemic species of fauna you will lose. So, and if I increase the temperature by another 0.5 degrees Celsius, you see the disaster. So we will lose 18 insects, then 16 plants, and 5 vertebrates. And the drought, 350 million people get affected. And with another 0.5 degree, it is about 410 million people get affected. And sea level rise about 48 centimeter, another 0.5 degrees Celsius, it becomes 56 centimeter, and about 50 million people get affected because of the coastal sea level rise. Okay. So now the impact of the changes in climate is one is glacier melt, then sea level rise, flooding, drought, and more importantly the productivity of crops. It is going to hurt our food security. So that means food security is affected, water availability becomes a problem, cities become vulnerable, the coastal cities lines will be more vulnerable, and more importantly public health. Increasing the temperature will increase the vector-borne diseases. you would have seen, whenever there is a vector-borne diseases in our country, in Kerala you will see the higher incidences of vector-borne diseases because the temperature has already increased by 1.5 degrees Celsius in Kerala. And another, the 2-3 years, it will shoot up by another 1 day. There is a disaster in the system. So now, we all know the causal factor of the changes in climate, the greenhouse gas. There is some amount of greenhouse gas, the species of carbon, etc. in the atmosphere. But when the concentration increases, it shields, it does not allow the sunlight to escape. In the process, the earth becomes warmer. When earth becomes warmer, naturally there are changes in climate. Okay? Now with this background, I will take you to the case study of the city, where I will show you about the land, then the water and the air, electricity, mobility, building architecture and the waste. And I will try to highlight the carbon footprint associated with each of these things. Okay? Now, how do we do the land assessment? We use the remote sensing data. We learned the surveys way back in the 70s, and every 21 days or 30 days interval, you get the picture graph. And that temporal data, along with the collateral data like survey of the topographic map, we do the assessment of the landscape. Now, when you do the landscape assessment, you can study any part of the globe. So now, for example, Bangalore. You know that today Bangalore is about 740 square kilometer. I'm not talking about GPA, I'm talking about the Bangalore of today or yesterday. Not even day for yesterday. So it's 740 square kilometer. You know, if you look at historical records, the 1800, during Kepler time, we had 1452 water bodies and 80% green cover. Because of that temperature, the city was 14 to 16 degrees Celsius in the May month. And for a few days in December, we had a temperature of 0 degrees Celsius. There are reports of growing apple in a place called Palace Orchard in Bangalore. Today, what are we growing in Palace Orchard? Waste. With waste people hanging around. Okay? And the temperature in the city has gone up to 37 degrees. The number of lakes has come down to 193%. And the storage capacity of the water body has also gone down because of the silting and encroachment, etc. If you look at from the cradle to grave, the city which was a garden city has become a dead city. So the grave is already there. Okay? So now, when you look at the lakes in Bangalore, they are interconnected. You know, when people talk about lakes, they say there are no natural lakes. In fact, without even knowing the concept, people talk. That is unfortunate thing. You know, earlier river was passing through the region. There are probably 3 watersheds were there, and water was moving. People restricted the movement of the water by bunting. So that's how we have the lakes, interconnected lakes in the Bangalore. Now you can judge whether it's a natural or unnatural thing. For me, it continues to be the natural water bodies. And if you look at how the changes are happened using the temporal remote sensing data, 68% green cover in 1973. You know, red is the buildings, blue is water body, yellow is open space. In 92, with the industrialization in Pune and Kormangala, you see changes are happened. Then 99, 2000, ITBT sectors came in the outskirts. Okay, then 2006 intensification happened, 2009 further intensification, and today about 87% of the landscape is concretized. Which means, if you look at the city, some of you might have noticed that elderly people are using oxygen cylinders. That means there is oxygen deficiency. There is a water scarcity. Last year we faced a severe water crisis, and the day is not far off. Your children have to go to the school, grandchildren and grandchildren, with oxygen cylinder. And you also at home may have to use that. To summarize what I said, there has been a 1078% increase in the concrete area. We have lost 18% vegetation and 79% of the water. You know, vegetation, whether it's on the terrestrial ecosystem or in the water body, acts as the carbon sink. We are removing them. We are emitting more and more carbon. That's where the imbalance is happening in the system. That's where I've been telling the government, enough is enough. Okay? So, but instead of taking action, jokers of today will come up with the Bangalore, greater Bangalore and greater Bangalore as long as their wallets get fatter and fatter. So, now, let us look at the number of trees in the city. You know, this is my campus of about 400 acres. In 400 acres, we mapped using GPS, Global Coordinating System, we found 22,000 trees are there. Similar exercise we did it in couple of watts. We linked with the remote sensing data, and using that training data, using the remote sensing data for the entire Bangalore, we quantified how many trees are there in Bangalore. In a city of Bangalore, we have 14,79,000 trees for a population of 95 lakh. That is a stable population. That means for every 7% there is one tree. You might ask how many trees people require. The today population even do not know why trees are required. I do not know how many are existing on earth without breathing. And for breathing, they should know at least they require oxygen, which is given by the trees. At the process, they do the carbon sequestration. You know, the carbon in the environment is taken by the plant during the photosynthesis. That's how you have oxygen, and carbon gets stored in the system. You know, 1 hectare of, if you look at the trees, you know, you all breathe carbon out. In a day, you give out 540 to 980 grams per person per day. 980 grams, 8 people, 540 of my generation. Okay, and 1 hectare of tree takes away carbon to an extent of 8 to 9 tons per hectare. By that ratio, for every human being, there should have been 7 to 8 trees. But what we have in Bangalore is 7% one tree. That means we are facing the carbon, the surplus situation in the city. Okay. I thought this should go to the decision making. That's where we developed the Bangalore Urban Information System. So we have put all the data, you know, which the government is supposed to do it. We have put all the data related to the thing, and it's quite popular. Last time when there was a severe water crisis, this was the slide people talked about it, and somebody prepared this one and they shared in the social media. It's about 9.7 lakh people have viewed that. Okay, but my interview in the thing has gone up to about 50,000 or something like that. Okay, so now this gives the number of lakes in Bangalore from 73 onwards. See, we had 756 lakes, and today we have 260 lakes. That means over a last 5 decades, we have lost 540 lakes in the city. Okay, that means there has been a 79% decrease in the lake. And our study, in fact, my students have monitored all the lakes in Bangalore. 98% of the lakes are encroached in Bangalore. In fact, I don't know who is not an encroacher in Bangalore. And 92% of the lake receive the sewage, untreated sewage. In fact, when you have water from the ground sources, all of you are tasting the sewage of your neighbors. Yeah, that gets into the lake and that gets back into the groundwater. Okay. So now, to summarize, there has been a decline in tree cover as well as the lakes, and you know one of the important things is 45% of the Bangalore depends on the groundwater. You know, our demand only the 55 to 60% is met by Kaveri. Last year, because of the periods of weather, there was no charging happened, and in Kaveri, because of climate change, there was erratic rainfall. We didn't have the rainfall. And that's why the shortage from Kaveri, that aggravated a problem, and we had a serious case in the city. Okay, so now when you see that in the catchment is dominated by the vegetation, our study shows that about 60 to 70% of the water get infiltrated into the system. When you urbanize it, hardly any water gets into the zone. What is the water that is stored in the underlying layer, water zone and groundwater zone, is the water that is available in your well during the post-monsoon period. Okay. Now, let us also try to understand the linkage between the water, the surface water and the groundwater. My study shows that when there were lakes, people had water in the well at 80 to 100 feet. When the lake was removed, it went down to 600 feet in 5 years. And after 22 years, it has gone down to 1,800 feet and there is no water. This is in Nakshat, Delhi, not very far from here. You might ask me, if I rejuvenate the lake, will I get back the well? See, Sarki Lake was rejuvenated. I was a member of the committee. Within a year, groundwater table went up by 320 feet. And after 4 years, when entire Bangalore was facing a severe water crisis, there was a water in Sarki Lake and surrounding borewell water is less than 500 feet. And because of the high moisture content, temperature in the surrounding of the Sarki Lake was at least 2 to 3 degrees lower than the city temperature. We had heat wave and water scarcity. At least that was, Sarki Lake model has to be replicated throughout the city. 216 lakes and 198 wards. Each ward has one lake on average. So if the people take it seriously and become active stakeholders in the system, as in Sarki Lake case, we can see see that the water is available for our children. So now let us try to understand what is the worth of the lake. When the lake is not polluted, due to the worth of the lake in the form of the fish, water, etc. also it will be 10,500 rupees per hectare per day. When you pollute the lake, the worth comes down to 20 rupees per day per hectare. When you pollute the lake, you see the emission happen, the carbon emission happen. When the lake is clean, the producers in the lake, algae, they sequester the carbon. See the dynamics, how it changes. One irresponsible action of polluting the lake by not treating the soil lead to the carbon emission in the system. Okay. So now, how the lake is being abused? Lake is used for dumping solid waste. People encroach the lake, and this lake receives the sewage of 600 million liter every day. And when the lake is clean in 90s, it looks like this. And when the lake was like this, you see that as the water moved from the inlet to the outlet, there was a treatment happening because of the algae, bacteria, etc. But now because of the excess feeding of the sewage, you see the profuse growth of invasive species. Now because of this invasive species, what has happened is sunlight penetration doesn't happen. That has led to the decline of the zooplankton and the fish population in the lake. That's how the worth of the lake comes down from 10,500 to 20 rupees per hectare per day. You can see that the biochemical oxygen defined, see when the lake is clean, it is lower. But when the lake is of this condition, it continues to be the same at the inlet as well as outlet. That means there is no treatment happening there. Okay. Now, what is the other problem we are facing? That's why I said we have not addressed the health issues when we talk about it. See, when we did the mapping of where all people dump the solid waste, okay, and also the lakes, which all lake receive the sewage. Then where we also studied what is the kind of the livelihood thing people practice in the neighborhood of the lake. People practice growing vegetables, the fish, etc. We collected fish, milk and vegetable samples. When we analyzed, all of them had heavy metal. The heavy metal will have a serious, in our food, will have a serious health implication in the form of cancer and kidney failure. Bangalore is number one as far as cancer is concerned. And kidney failure, which was 1 in 1 lakh about 12 years back, today it's 1 in 5,000. So, and more the younger children are getting affected because of the contaminated environment. See, if you go to the Vattur, etc., I have come across the school children losing their kidney. Girls losing both kidney. In one of the private school, I saw the 2 girls of 8th standard didn't have both the kidneys are failed. I thought I should do something. I visited school after 8 months. When I asked the principal that I want to meet those girls, principal said out of the 2, 1 is no more. In the school, same school, LKG kid had a problem. Then principal wanted me to visit other classes. I said this is enough. So that shows that we are paying heavy price. And the youth are the asset of the nation. That today we are losing youth because of the contaminated environment. Youth are becoming more and more vulnerable to it. Okay? Now let us understand what is sustainability. This lady does the fishing of, she collects the bivalve. Every day 1 basket full of bivalves. I was curious. She doesn't collect the second basket, though she and her daughter-in-law all are doing that. They never exceed 1 basket. When I asked her, she said, when I sell this basket full of bivalves, these bivalves, I get 350 rupees. That 350 rupees is sufficient for me to run my family for today. For tomorrow, I will earn tomorrow. That is how she has ensured the renewability in the system. War harvesting she has done that. But in Bangalore, what we do? We are so greedy. We want to amass the wealth, not for our unborn great-grandchildren, even not to be seen even after 2 centuries. We want to keep the money for them. Okay? That's the unfortunate part. Okay? Then we developed the Bangalore Lake Information System. That's how I have taken the science to the policy making. You can get the details of all the lakes in Bangalore with the water quality, what kind of biota is there, what is the environmental status of that, and what is the encroachment in the lake, how much is encroached, as per the government record, as per our assessment. Okay. We all faced the water scarcity last year. It is mainly because of the water and absence of water urbanism in the planet. We gave more emphasis to beds of fish. We made the city landscape transition from the forest to the bed landscape. 68% the porous landscape in 17. Today, 87% is concretized on the bed surface. And when the land surface is covered with the bed surface, you will not have the groundwater recharge. Coupled with that, there is over exploitation of the groundwater that led to the decline of the groundwater table in the city. Okay, so and also people have removed the interconnectivity among the lakes. All the lakes are interconnected. When I do the interconnectivity assessment, I see all the influential sections of the society are sitting on the drain. So you go to Rajeshwari Nagar, there is a famous fellow by name Sarathi. Now he is in a jail for different reasons. He is also sitting on the train. Next to him is a politician is sitting on the train. So that's unfortunate. This will continue as long as people are passive. When they do not assert, this will continue to happen. Okay? Now let's look at the solid waste in the region. Okay? You all know the waste in the system, which is not used by us, is considered as a waste. Okay? Why then we have solid waste in the city? One is irresponsible citizen. You will understand why I am telling that, okay? So, then weak regulatory mechanism, inefficient municipality, and I thought that when I wrote this article about 10 years back, I made a remark of garbage mafia in my article. But last week, my Deputy Chief Minister of the state also uses the same jargon. So, which he is supposed to control it, he is unable to do it, okay? So this is the nexus of this conductor, engineer and current bureaucracy is the another okay. Now when you look at the nature, you can manage the solid waste and you can bring down the carbon footprint. See, when you look at there is a producer producing the food, sequestering the carbon. That means carbon is removed in the system, which is eaten by the next level of organism. And whatever is left in the system, get converted to elemental form by bacteria and fungi. That means when you look at the nature, there is nothing called waste. When you see waste, you will see waste where waste people are there. Now who are those waste fellows? Don't feel bad. So now you will see them. Okay? When they can use this kind of thing, for them convenience has become the order of the day. See this kind of thing. But here also it is there. See that. We are talking about sustainability, but we have this. And look at this. This polythene is supposed to be for low grade thing, but it is used for packing the samosa and people eat samosa. So when Sashank said food is ahead, when I came at 1:30, he said food is ahead. I asked him, what kind of food is ahead? Is it a packed? Or then he said, sir, don't worry, chapati and all. Then I went and saw it was packed in a steel container. Then I decided to have that. The day when you refuse to touch this plastic and other alien product, you have solved the problem of solid waste. Okay? What is the difficulty in everybody carrying the water bottle? I carry that water bottle in my bag has travelled almost all the countries on the earth. When it can travel with me, what makes people from here to come to here without with the water bottle from home? Okay? Now look at the another set of funds. They will get a food for the children. How? Hot, rasam, sambar, idli in the polythene bag. As a researcher, I did the study to see what are the constituents of the food consists of, apart from the nutrient. I found dioxin in that, BPA in that. These are all carcinogen. That means when we get food, we are giving the carcinogen to our children because of our irresponsible behavior of not taking the container. Preparing food at home is the best option, but next best option, we should have taken the container to do that. And we have also met the Prime Minister to come to the street to clean the street. That shows the bad status of the country. Even the animals are there. And the worst part is, even in our body, there are nanoplastics. Please go and check your blood in the body. If it is nanoplastic concentration is there, then you have to take your life seriously. Okay? So now, this is the way to this. We have seen this ladder. The day when you refuse to use the plastic, you have solved the problem of plastic in the region. Okay? Or the waste in the region. Okay? Now, what are the functional elements of the solid waste management? We all know the generation, storage, collection, transport, disposal. At every stage, there is a footprint. Now, when you use the organic fraction, okay, you see the degradation is peak to 2. And paper is about 10 to 30 days. Cotton cloth is 2 to 5 months. Woolen cloth is 12. And aluminum is 500 years. And plastic bag is 1 million years. See, even if you come back with the cancer on the earth even 10 times, you will still see your plastic footprint in the system. No, that's why you should minimize using the plastic. Okay. Now you see that some of the interventions happen at home. Segregation of organic and inorganic happens. But we have the transport vehicle doesn't have the partition, and that's where it gets mixed. And not only that, when we did a mapping of the solid waste that is littered in the city, this is not what you dump your polythene bag in the neighbor's compound. I'm talking about a thing which occupy at least 10 feet by 10 feet and stays in the system for a longer time. When we did the mapping, we were surprised to see the entire Bangalore is littered with the solid waste. So that is what is the thing. See, that's where when I was quite young, one of the chief ministers said he will make Bangalore the Singapore. Just I was graduating at that time, I was excited. But what I noticed is, what he meant Singapore is not the Singapore I thought about it. There is a place called Singapura when I go to the airport. That place, Singapura, is a dumping place. You know, you can see that waste dumping happens in Singapura. That great man had a vision of making entire Bangalore Singapura, the waste dumping place. Okay? And these are the kinds of the fraction of the waste that is there in various places. You know, you can see that when this kind of research is done, you should really ensure your thing. Myself, my students were attacked because of the mafia. But they didn't know that we are more intelligent than them. Okay. Now, when you see that, when we did the assessment, organic fraction is about 81%. By and large, the traditional homes are still organic. I am not talking about that CDE and some of population. That irresponsible population, keep it out. And I am talking about the population like my family and my friends and all. See, about 74 gram per person per day is the organic fraction. And this gives the plastic setup. This is how the waste generated. And major fraction is organic. If you segregate this waste, you have solved the waste problem in the city. If there is a waste problem in the city, I would say it is because of the irresponsible citizen in the city, and because of that there is a carbon emission happening in the region. We also did the carbon dioxide equivalent, this one, quantification of that. You know, it's about 0.013 gram of methane per kg of the organic fraction. Okay, and we also looked at the carbon dioxide, methane, etc. in that. Okay, now how did we do the thing? You know, we looked at both the system, where you have the segregation, then have the treatment, what is the carbon footprint, or when you dispose it directly without any the segregation as it happens. Okay. Now, when we did the experiment, this is how with the controlled environment, both aerobic and anaerobic, the emission we looked at. Anaerobic is a controlled environment without oxygen. That's the thing. And we saw what is the carbon emitted in the system. That's how the carbon footprint is assessed. Okay, and then for the entire city we did the mapping of the methane and carbon dioxide emitted because of the irresponsible handling of the organic fraction of the waste. Okay, now let's look at the other cities in India. The 10 cities in India I have studied, my students have done that. So we have quantified the emissions of all the sectors, whatever sector you think about, domestic, transport, industry, agriculture, livestock, waste. And we looked at what is the kind of the emission that happens. Now, look at this architecture. This architecture looks good, but it is meant for the European climate or the temperate climate where it's colder. To retain the heat, you use this architecture. But our fellows of today who have graduated with a copy-paste culture, they copy this architecture, temperate climate, they place it in the Bangalore environment, which is a tropical climate. The Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, etc. Now in the process what happens, we did a study. See, I got an opportunity to study, and when we did the study, we saw that in the normal building, if the electricity consumption per person per year is about 700 to 1200 units, in the glass facade building, it's about 14 to 50,000 units per person per year. 10 times higher electricity consumption. 10 times higher electricity means 10 times higher carbon footprint. You know, that's how it is contributing to the warming of the earth. Okay? Now, this is what we published, the GHG footprint of major cities in India. It is available online, and even the media also talked about it, and there was a discussion of this in the parliament also. So, when you did the sector-wise assessment, if you look at the emission from the electricity consumption, Delhi is on the top, next is the Mumbai, and then Bangalore. Okay? Or when you look at the emission from the domestic sector, you see that across the cities we have done the assessment, so that when you compare, you will know that with, you are sitting where it stands. Okay, and something very interesting we got in the cities like Bangalore and Hyderabad, higher emission from the transportation sector. As high as you see that 47% from in the Bangalore from the transportation sector, or 56% in the Hyderabad. That is because of the lack of public transport. Just improving the public transport, you can bring down the carbon emission in the system. Okay, so now this gives the sector wise, and this gives all the sector put together. See, we are not very far from Mumbai or the Chennai, so as good as the other cities. Okay, now if you look at the emission per data to the GDP per capita, you see that Chennai is on the top. And if you look at the emission per GDP, per unit of GDP production, what is the emission? If you look at Bangalore, Delhi are higher compared to the Mumbai. So that means carbon footprint, because of the poor public transport and other things, we have the higher emissions. Okay, we have a good solar potential in the country. That's what the solar data says. And wind potential is also quite good. When you integrate solar and wind, you have met the requirement. You don't require the fossil fuel. So this is what the solar panel on my lab at IISc. Okay. So now, to summarize, unplanned urbanization led to the loss of ecosystem, which enhanced the pollutant and led to the global warming. That's what is happening with the thing. Okay. Now, what needs to be done? You need to have a cost-effective and secure public transport, secure for children and women. Okay. Waste management, you should incentivize. If somebody segregate and give some money to them, because they have solved the problem of the city. Okay. Then make the solar energy the mandatory, so let everyone have it. Then appropriate building architecture. Penalize the architect who are responsible for this glass solar building in the city. They have increased the carbon footprint in the city. Okay. So now the last part of my talk, what can be done? Okay, what we have done. One is the wastewater treatment, the low cost solution, economic solution. Then how we have solved, we can solve the water problem in the city through the rainwater harvesting and lake and creating water bodies and mini forest in each one. And more importantly, sensitizing the people so that when they know about the environment, probably they will practice it so that we can minimize the burden. Okay. Now, this is a lake in my campus which was created in 2008. Not only my students are happy because they use it as a lab, even I have a otter in the campus. At one end I say the Bangalore is dying, other end I have the place where otter is there. And when we did the biodiversity, you can see that all organisms are there in the water bodies, zooplankton, fish, etc. That means the nature knows how to create the ecosystem when you facilitate that. Okay? And people who have met me to, when they had the water crisis, they remembered me. But the solution has happened. They have created a water body which has solved. For example, Moodavindra. 32 lakes were desilted thanks to this say. And last year when entire Bangalore faced a severe, entire Karnataka faced a severe water crisis, including Dakshin Kannada. Moodavindra didn't have the water crisis because of the management of the lake. That means the solution we know. And this is one of the lake in the college, which was because I saw the success was because of the youth. Then I pushed the college to have the water body. They created a water body of the 25 lakh liters, which stores the thing. And next year when I visited, I saw the greenery with the abundant water. Now to put it in the lighter, this one, I am not sure how many of you are in this age group. So this man, when he met me, he was a bachelor, trying to get married, or not happening. But the moment he created a water body, within 6 months he get a partner. Who take care of the joint family. Wonderful. There is a happiness and peace at home. So if you want minimal the conflict at home, the best option, do something to the nature. Okay. Now the next part. Okay. The wastewater. Okay. Now Chekur Lake, surrounding Chekur Lake in 2005, there were about 25 wells were there. All of them had nitrate. When we did the analysis, nitrate is a carcinogen which introduces cancer. I pushed the government to rejuvenate the lake. The government constituted committee, I was a member of the committee, but they didn't give enough money. But that gave an opportunity for me to introduce a nature-based solution. I integrated concentrated wetland and algal pond along with secondary treatment, which removed the large particle and the chemical ion, while this removed the nutrient. That means the problem of nitrate is solved. About 85 to 90% of the nutrient is removed. And for the last 10 years, my students have monitored this, and we published this article. And today, surrounding the lake, there are 300 wells are there, none of them have nitrate. At least I have a satisfaction because of my science. 300 well users, that dependent family, are not consuming the water which is laden with the nitrate. Okay. Now, how do you solve the problem of Bangalore? Bangalore is in the range of 700 to 850 millimeter. If you catch that rainwater, you have 15 TMC of water, where the city requires 18 TMC of water. That means 70% of the water required for Bangalore is available in the form of rain. The best option is to do the rainwater harvesting. If you have rooftop harvesting, individual houses will have 4 to 5 months additional water. The next best option at community level is rejuvenate the lake, retain the groundwater, retain the water in the lake, so that surrounding groundwater sources also get energized. So that's how you have 15 lakh the TMC of water. Now, if you are using 80 TMC of water, you are generating 18 TMC of wastewater. If you treat it similar to Jakkur Lake, you have 16 TMC of treated water. That means 15 plus 16 TMC, 31 TMC of water is available in the city where there is a demand for 18 TMC. But for this to happen, I have a 5R problem. First, R is a responsible citizen. Environmentally literate people are responsible citizens, and when they are responsible, they will allow the rejuvenation of the lake so that I can retain the rainwater, and also they will allow the reuse and recycle of the wastewater. Otherwise, people write to me after listening to my talk, why do you want us to drink the treated water? I always tell them, come with me to the Mysore. When we travel from Mysore to Bangalore, you will see the Mysorean sewage flowing into the Kaveri, which means you are drinking the sewage of Mysorean through your tap. Instead of that, treat your own sewage and drink, which will be more tastier. Okay? So, now, we also took up the rejuvenation of the lakes. That's what the success story of Jakkur Lake, Ramachandra Lake, etc. Now the Vattur and Bangalore Lake is getting rejuvenated. When we did the decontamination, as a part of decontamination, we said silt has to be removed. 11 million cubic meter of the silt is accumulated in the thing. Some of the people in Bangalore said, okay, TVR is going to create the problem of traffic in Bangalore by shifting this silt, etc. Always criticism helps to the scientists. What I did is, I had a meeting with the local people. I did analysis of the elements, etc. in the silt. I found that Vattur Lake silt doesn't have any contact. I had a meeting with the farmers. Since I was a member of the Green Tribunal, I gave the silt to the farmers in the thing. 400 acres, we gave that. Then after 3 months when I visited, farmers invited me with a bumper crop. Each farmer says that they got 1,50,000 per acre because they didn't use the fertilizer. The silt had nutrient, and silt had nutrients. They could they grow this crop 3 times a year. That means 1,50,000 into 3 is a 4,50,000 per acre is the benefit they have got. Into 400 is the worth of that silt what we have given. See, there is a solution. This is a simple solution. Everyone in the society gets a benefit. Okay. Now you come to my campus, you will see this climber. I was fascinated by the architecture. I felt I should have it in Bangalore, that too in my campus. I got that pot which have 14 seeds. Out of 14 seeds, 7 are planted in various locations in the campus. Other 7 I kept in my lab. Out of 7 which I have planted in various locations, only 1 has survived. That is next to the building where I worked for 2 decades. That means even the plants know who will take them. Okay. Now, in front of the building, we created a mini forest in 2 hectares area. 49 native species, 500 saplings were planted way back in 90s. And today you come and see that, you get a feel of the rainforest. More importantly, groundwater, which was 150 feet earlier when Parthenium was there, today I have water at 10 feet. And temperature is 2 degrees lower. Now if you are facing water crisis, you know that what you should do, you should keep your surrounding porous. If you follow the building norms, you have done a greatest job in the Bangalore. You should not encroach all your thing, compound to compound, you should not build the thing. So that is, if you do that, you are allowing the groundwater recharge to happen. Okay, now that's what we communicate to the wider section. I have an environmental education program. We have been doing this for the last 25 years. Now it's the Silver Jubilee year. We have conducted about 555 programs in various institutions in the country. And also I offer a course on environmental management. These are for the working professionals. Now is the 2030. In fact, one of the alumni of this course is here, Anand is here, who took the course in 2013. So, and we also conduct a symposium popularly known as Lake Symposium with the audience of 1,000. Uniqueness is about 30 to 35% of the school and college students. They do a simple experiment, and those kids are selected for the final event. Either on carbon sequestration or the water quality. They are trained in the orientation program. The children do the data collection and analysis. They come and do the presentation, and they are given the best. The presentation and best work gets the Science Ecologist award. Similarly, in rural area, the children do the neighborhood mapping. They do the carbon assessment, etc. That's how, when we talk about LCA here, we are also practicing in our homes also. So then, if you need more detail, these are the portals where you get the detail, and you can write to me here. I'm not using mobile because I found that it uses more. Carbon footprint is much higher in the mobile. Okay, so that's where. But still, people know how to read. Sashank contacted me through the email. So if Sashank has done it, then I'm sure anyone else on the earth can be able to do that. Okay. So now this is the portal, and all our publications are there. Even in YouTube, you'll get my talk. If you give a Google search YouTube, TVRAMACHANDRA, you'll get it. Okay. And agenda of my science is to sow the seeds of knowledge in this young brain. At least they will become a responsible citizen who will take care of our great grandchildren. Okay. So when the children do a good job, they will keep a smile on your face. Okay. So, and we also need a life which is nature friendly. If you come to my room, my lab, my lab is the fellows who design. They have put so many bulbs, 360 bulbs. I replaced that with 18 bulbs. And above my lab, there is a solar harvesting. At the same time, I have a lake which I created. I have the water. So both water and energy, I have made it surplus in the system. And we lead a happy life. Thank you very much.